So we're going to talk a little bit about polynomial long division. And in order for us to divide polynomials in this manner, we also need to know how to just do regular long division. And we've got some terms that we're going to use. So if I were to do regular long division, I'd start this with a dividend. So I have a dividend, which is divided by my divisor. All right, so we have a dividend divided by a divisor. And when we set this up to do long division, that dividend goes under my house and my divisor goes in front. So I divide my divisor into my first term. 3 goes into 6 2 times. I write the 2 exactly above the 6. 3 times 2 gives me a 6. And then I will subtract through here. So 6 minus 6 gives me 0. I bring down the 8. And I do this process again. How many times does this 3 go into 8? And 3 goes into 8 2 times. So I put the 2 above the 8. 2 times the divisor 3 gives me 6. Again, I will subtract and I will get 2. Bring down the last number 5. 3 goes into 25 8 times. Can't go into 2, so we just put it into the 25. Goes into 25 8 times. 3 times 8 gives us 24. And if we subtract here, we get 1, right? So 1 is my last value when I do that subtraction. So in this case, I have a remainder. My remainder is 1. And I have a quotient. My quotient is 228. And we kind of have a way we can write our answer. And there are different ways that things can be written. But we can take this and rearrange it and say that 685 equals the divisor 3 times my quotient 228 plus my remainder of 1. And this is always going to be a true statement. So if you notice down here, I've said that the dividend equals the divisor times the quotient plus the remainder. And we have a notation here that we can use to help us remember that. So we say that P equals little d times Q plus R. So we're going to repeat this process, dividing a number in, multiplying through, and then subtracting. But we're going to do it with a polynomial, which is a little bit different. So in this case, I have 4x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 7. And when I go to set this up or to work this problem, my dividend, P of x, is the 4x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 7. My divisor is little d of x. So I'm going to write my divisor in front, x minus 2, and create my house, and I'll write my quotient underneath. So 4x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 7. And that all goes underneath my house that I'm setting up for division here. And so there's one little thing that I just want to bring up that this example isn't really showing us. If my dividend had been, say, P of x equals x to the 4th minus 8x plus 2. So we've got a quartic term. There is no x cubed and there's no x squared. So if that was the situation, I would need to make sure I use a placeholder. Okay, so that would be x to the fourth plus 0x cubed plus 0x squared minus 8x plus 2. And I just wanted to point that out. And we'll get more into that as we move through the section. But if you are missing a term, an x cubed, or any term, writing that in descending order, if you're doing long division or moving ahead synthetic division, we need to remember to use a placeholder. So I'm going to erase that. And we will continue along with our long division process. And so when I do my long division process like this, I like to give myself room for some scratch work, because it helps me do the little calculations that I'm doing inside this problem efficiently. So the first piece is we take the x and we divide it into 4x cubed. 4x cubed divided by x. So how many times does x go into 4x cubed? And in this case, dividing that out, we would get 4x squared. So 4x squared is going to go into my quotient above my house, and I'm going to line that up right above my other squared term. So you want to notice everything is organized. Organization is going to help us get through this problem without making mistakes. So the 4x squared goes up top, and I take that 4x squared and I'm going to multiply it. And the 4x squared is going to multiply by all of this. Okay, so 4x squared is what I'm going to do over here. 4x squared times x minus 2. And what that gives me is what I'm going to write underneath to subtract. I get 4x cubed minus 8x squared. So that 4x cubed minus 8x squared goes underneath. And then my last step in this process is to subtract all of that. So my first two terms should always cancel. And when I do the subtraction of my next two terms, negative 3x squared minus, and we have here negative 8x squared, so negative 3x squared minus negative 8x squared, that's negative 3 plus 8, and we have 5x squared. So 5x squared is what goes beneath, and then our terms are going to carry down again. So I want you to do two things right now. So the two things I want you to do are to, first of all, go through my steps, make sure you know what's going on and how we got all of those values. And then the second part that I'll have you do will be to go ahead and try to do our next part of the division. Try to do that on your own, and then start the video and we'll continue going. You can double check your work. So, assuming you did that, I continue the problem. And we say, how many times does x go into 5x squared? 5x squared divided by x gives us 5x. So plus 5x up top. I take the 5x, multiply by my divisor, 5x times x minus 2. And that gives us 5x squared minus 10x. So that goes underneath 5x squared minus 10x. Going to subtract. The 5x's cancel. And I have x minus negative 10x. That's going to be positive 11x. How many times does x go into 11x? It goes in there 11 times. So 11 times x minus 2 gives me 11x minus 22. I didn't bring down my 7. So now we will subtract. The first terms cancel, and then I have 7 minus negative 22, which is positive 29. So my quotient in this situation, my quotient's what I have up on top. Q of x equals 4x squared plus 5x plus 11. R of x equals 29. And if we were asked to write this in that P equals little d times Q plus R form, well, what that would mean is our original cubic polynomial we started with could be written as though it's equal to x minus 2 times 4x squared plus 5x plus 11, and then plus that remainder, 29. So some of the problems you'll work, it's going to ask you to go that extra step and write it in this format. And then moving forward, what we're going to want to see happen is we're going to want that remainder to be 0, because if the remainder is 0 and that's not there, we will have written this in a factored form. We have 2 factors. And so doing this division builds to us creating or figuring out how to factor polynomial equations.